HBO, I don't know how you did it, but you pulled it off. And when I say it, you know what I'm talking about. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
You stupid old man. You don't get to rush this.
Yes, that scene. I was a little worried at first, I'm not gonna lie, but you guys got it. What's going on, guys? In today's video, I'm gonna be covering episode 2 of the new season of Last of Us titled Through the Valley. As a follow-up to last week's video and how a lot of people stated that it was a slow burn and not really much happened, you definitely got your wish because they brought the heat this week. And before we get into the video, as always, I have to give a disclaimer. This is going to be a spoiler review, so if you haven't seen the episode yet, I would highly recommend watching the video first and coming back to this one, because I'm going to be diving a lot into the specifics about the plot, some similarities between the games, as well as some things that you might not see coming, so there it is, you've been warned. With that being said, let's get our golf clubs ready and jump back into the second episode titled Through the Valley. So the episode kicks off with a dream sequence of a flashback with Abby on the day that Joel,
Anyway, I started blasting. Bang!
Now this seems like a one-for-one shot with the video game, but in the game you see a full interaction of what happened when she entered the room. In the show, it only shows her having a conversation inside her head before she goes into the door. These dreams are shown to show that Abby is still in disbelief over what happened to her father. The scene in the game is shown multiple times to really hit home and trying to convince you that Abby's pursuit of vengeance is justified, but we're going to get back to that later. Abby and her crew are having discussions about whether Abby's goal is to try to find Joel are even safe, with most of them even thinking about leaving, and that leads to Abby having to go by herself. These scenes bounce back and forth between what Abby's doing and what Ellie's got going on, as you can see in the show, and it's trying to keep you up to date with what Abby has going on, as well as her counterpart, Ellie. For Ellie, in this episode picks up exactly where she left off in the first one, and she's getting ready to go on patrol with Jesse. Where in the game, however, she's going on patrol with Dina. This is one of the few things I noticed in the episode where the show decided to take a different path than the game, hopefully adding a different nuance to it. Ellie even tries to request to go on a patrol with Joel, but she's told that he's on patrol with Dina already. The story cuts back to Abby traveling, and this is where the episode really starts to ramp up. Now this section of the show was taken directly out of the game, but this is where the players originally are introduced to Abby. And you get a small tutorial about how to fight, and you see Infected for the first time as Abby, and also see that the Infected threat remains prevalent. But yeah, I wasn't expecting them to be this prevalent. Now, I remember my last video where I said a big complaint that a lot of people, including myself, had about the show was the lack of Infected. But in this episode, I think it would be safe to say they hurt us. This chase segment with Abby running from the Infected was cut straight out of the game, and the way they did justice to the scene blew my mind. You could feel the actual fear from Caitlin Denver resonating with the character and brought an intensity that honestly, I didn't even see coming. We also get a payoff to the cordryceps vines that were in the water pipes back in the first episode. We were told that the cordryceps vines behave like a hive mind and communicate with all the infected. So if there's a victim in a particular area, the cordryceps just communicate to the infected that's in the area and they can swarm it. This episode also shows that the cordryceps are getting smart and they're using deceased bodies of the other infected to keep others warm in low temperatures, which was something that the game showed, but it was never really explained. Getting that moment where the full herd of infected all turns toward Jackson because of the cordryceps in the pipes really shocked me. Joel's saving of Abby was a bittersweet moment because as a first-time viewer, you know something is wrong, but as a long-time gamer, you hate this moment because you know what's coming and just don't want it to happen. The Jackson attack scene was something brand new to The Last of Us and actually showed in depth how Jackson has worked to maintain its security. Tommy leading the attack with Maria was a standout moment that caught a lot of people by surprise and was actually another highlight of the episode. Now I'm gonna call a spade and say that out of everything that was good in the episode, this is one thing that I just couldn't get behind. I get how Jackson had their own plan for if a large group of infected were to run into Jackson, but with the size of the group of infected and how easy they got into the walls, There should have been no way that any of them made it out of this, and I'm just gonna say it like that. Tommy's 1v1 with the bloater was also another thing that, even though it was badass, I still don't know if I agree with it. And the reason I say that is, anyone who's ever fought one of these things knows there ain't no way that you beating that thing that fast. And it leads to a whole bunch of other questions like, are they ever gonna clean those pipes? Are they gonna have to leave Jackson? It's so many questions that I was left with that made me really curious about which direction they're gonna go with this as the season goes on. So, I'm gonna get into the real reason why you guys clicked on this video. And before you guys even wonder, I'm just gonna throw it out there. I loved this scene. And not for the reasons you might expect. In the game, when Abby has her run-in with Joel in the cabin, there's a few differences that I noted right away as I was watching the episode. For starters, in the game, Joel's with Tommy at the cabin, and Tommy lets loose that he's the guy that they're looking for. But here, it's Dina who's on patrol with Joel, and let them know that he's him. In the game, Abby's voice lines to Joel are very minute, meaning that she doesn't really say a lot of what she's planning to do. I believe they chose to do this to keep her overall character in the shadows, as the player at this time in the game doesn't know too much about her, so it makes sense to not have her talking that much. However, Caitlin Denver delivers a heartbreaking speech to Joel, letting him know her full intentions of what she plans to do. Now, both the game and the show share similar voice lines, but Abby's speech in the show clears the whole engagement by her and Joel in the game. Caitlin Denver's delivery of that speech took the cake and made me a huge fan of what she's going to do with this character in the rest of the season. Even though they brought back Joel's iconic line during that heavy speech.
Why don't you say whatever speech you got rehearsed? Get this over with.
Jeez, man, this scene is so hard to watch even in the show. I will say that Pedro's acting in the scene is off the charts with how Joel is portrayed in this moment. In the game, Joel's response is more uncaring and aggressive, but in the show, Pedro brings more of an acceptance to what's about to happen to him. He's not apologizing, but it's kind of alluded back to his therapy session that he had in the first episode, where he couldn't tell the therapist what he did, but came to accept it himself. Bella Ramsey's acting in this scene really captured the energy from the scene as well. Her cries and telling Joel to get up really puts you in the shoes of a loss of a father figure from a little girl, which brings emotion I didn't think was capable from her. The ending also changes things up with Ellie taking Joel's body back, but in the game, they knock Ellie out and she wakes back up in Jackson, and her and Tommy talk about what just happened. Gabriel Luna as Tommy really has me guessing about what this character is about to do. Because in the original story, Tommy goes to get revenge against Abby's crew, and you run into him at different parts of the game with guns blazing. There's an underlying symbolism that I picked up on in the first episode that I'm going to get into now. In the show, the writers are trying harder to make you understand Abby as a character. Even if you don't fully side with her and her motives, you definitely see where she's coming from. To her, Joel is just the guy that showed up and took her father away, so her revenge is justified. But as a viewer, you spent so much time with Joel, and that's why it hits differently. In the game, we're introduced to Abby as a stranger, and it isn't until halfway through the story we start to understand her as a character. And it's not like that in the show. Abby's portrayed as a conflicted character, and I'm actually pretty glad with the approach they're taking. The acting from Caitlin has officially won me over with this character, and I can't wait to see what the future brings for her. So my final thoughts for the episode: this episode did a really good job for setting the pace of the show, and I hope it only goes up from here. I'm going to give this episode a solid 8 out of 10, but what did you guys think? Tap down in the comments below and let me know your thoughts on the second episode. Make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for all upcoming content covering dope shows and movies. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.
My side girl got a 5S with a screen crack. Still hear me laugh right away. Better not never take. Don't come around looking insane. Trying to show the dog today. Got a choice trying to lead the way. Biting everybody with some high rock. Cause your next album, they won't ever see the light of day. Have fans, but you